So, yeah, I'm a benevolent king. I'm a white hat. Why am I a white hat? Why am I a good guy? Because I was brought up to be a good guy within a certain value set, a certain culture. And so I'm a good guy, and I'm a benevolent king, and I'm a great king. And one thing I'd want to have to be a great king, or I think is necessary to be a great king, is to have a stellar, fantastic, wonderful, great education so that you can understand a little bit about all kinds of complex domains of knowledge. You know, so somebody's talking to you about building a dam, you understand a little bit about engineering and building dams and bridges and infrastructure. And if somebody's talking to you about material science and carbon nanotubes and whatnot, or CRISPR-Cas9 or something, you have some idea about it, you know? And if they're talking about Islam, you have some idea about that, you know, if they're your friend or your enemy or your frenemy. And if you're talking about Crimea, you know something about that, a little bit. At least you can point to it on a map. So when you talk to your experts, you can kind of get an idea whether their information is good or bad, and you can triangulate by communicating with other experts whether or not you understand what's going on, and then you can make good decisions based on that understanding. Now, if you're Donald Trump, you may be really good for people to use because he can be popular. A lot of people like him, so you'll get the votes. But he's like a puppet. He doesn't know shit. He's just a con man, an entertainer, a funny guy, somebody who sounds about right to you. Like, that sounds about right, you know? Sorry I did that. Oh, that sounds about right. Yeah, why not use a British accent when I'm mocking somebody? So anyway, yeah, he's not the guy, the best guy to be king, but he could be manipulated by the courtiers and the courtiers and the barons and the dukes and his advisors and the court gesture and the woman behind the man, the benevolent queen, or the advisors, you know, the press woman or whatever. And, you know, we can rein this guy in. We can use what he's got going for him, and then we can organize it for him so he knows what he's doing and help him make the right decision. Look, he says, I'm just a bull in the china shop. I'm going to throw shit at the wall and see what sticks. And if somebody rubs me the wrong way, I'm going to squash him. Now, just as an aside, do you think Putin's that stupid? Do you think he's a puppet? Maybe. Maybe his advisors have him wrapped around a string, just like all those scientists have Greta wrapped around their finger. But anyway, to be a benevolent king, you'd want to have some knowledge, a good education. You'd want to be brought up to be a polite, considerate, compassionate human being who had boundless curiosity and lots of energy, to learn and to grow, so that you could make good decisions for your kingdom or whatever. If you're the dictator, you know, if you're Caesar. And, you know, how are you gonna pluck Caesar out of the crowd? You know, you're gonna pluck him out. All right, this is, ooh, that guy's going fast. Jesus Christ, that guy was flying. Anyway, I found a new road, which is what I wanted to do, and it's definitely faster, more direct. And this goes under A8, this underpass here. So I'm in business. I'm very proud of myself. I didn't have to really hit any major dead ends. Just off the seat of my pants, using my internal GPS system that's in my brain. So anyway, yeah, the mechanism for plucking a benevolent king out of the crowdsourcing a benevolent king, and then making sure that king's accountable, because it might not be the Son of God or whatever. That's another thing I want to talk about, is how people actually know the mind of God. You know, I just don't get it. It's inexplicable to me. I can have spiritual experiences, I can have mystical experiences, take my mescaline, my LSD, my mushrooms, my ayahuasca, whatever. I mean, big deal, you know. I still don't have any clue about God. I mean, I'd imagine a deer or an ant has more understanding of the way things are in the universe. I mean, yeah, we have math, and we can extrapolate from that somehow this is, you know, important to God because we have it and we're conscious of it. I don't want to get into that, because that's just a whole lot of a world of hurt. And listening to that stuff, if people debate that stuff, it's interesting for a while, but then it drives me crazy. As if like, yeah, okay, you got all that, huh? You're sure? You're sure? Forget anything about that so-called humility. All right, so now I'm wondering if I go down here, is it a shorter one than going down there? I'm going to give this a shot. It looks like it. Yeah, so that was a bit of a parenthetical there. So somehow you crowdsource and pluck out of the crowd some benevolent king that has the right education, expertise, and experience. Let's not forget, you know, fighting fighting in Francia, or whatever you called it, I forgot. Fighting the Celts or whatever for years and years in the German tribes. And also being born into that class where you have all the advantages. So the class thing is a big deal, especially for the new right. Like, forget about racism. It's class. But anyway, yeah, you find your king, then you have to, Allah, as if Moldbug is original. I mean, you know what books he's read the minute you start reading them, but I won't go into that. And now you have to make him accountable. So you need a blockchain. I've mentioned that before. Right on. So what? A DAO and a token economy. And, you know, it's like some of the crypto bros say, you know, why shouldn't Idaho be like a religious Christian white state if it wants to be? You just incorporate it with a smart contract, and you have your own currency. And anybody who wants to be in that bubble, you know, it's not just an internet bubble or a Twitter bubble, it's a real bubble. You can go to Idaho. We don't allow people, you have to be admitted into the community. It's just like a Facebook group. We have some questions we'd like to ask you, and if you tick the majority of the boxes, the vast majority of the boxes, we'll let you come in here on a provisional basis. And if it all works out, you can become a citizen of our dear state within a state, or city-state, or whatever you want to call it, parish. So the world just fragments into all of that. Ooh, this is a nice cafe. Isn't it? Ah, bom dia. Bom café. So, ooh, another one. I just stumbled onto like a world of cafe. So that's nice. Yeah, so there's all these different ideas out there, you know. I mean, if you're still at all interested in Republicans and Democrats in the States, I think you're just not paying attention, or you don't read enough or something. Because that whole thing is a dead end. There's nothing going on there, man. I think I'll go this way. I mean, those guys, you know, and the culture war, I mean, that's crowdfunded. So, yeah, I mean, in a democracy, right, if we're going to think about a progressive democracy where it works real well and people get what they want, what they voted for, oh, let's not even go there. But you'd need a whole electorate of more or less benevolent kings and queens who were knowledgeable enough to be able to vote intelligently in their interests and then to hold accountable the leadership. Of course, if you're a corporation, you answer to the board, not to the workers. So that's a totally different model. That's not the same thing. There's a false equivalency there if you want to make it. So this is a deadly end. So I'm dead here. So I'll just head back. Didn't hurt me much. So that's a different thing. So if you want to have the CEO of Singapore, the CEO of Hong Kong, who does the CEO of Hong Kong answer to? Well, the CCP, Beijing. Who does the CEO of Singapore answer to? That's a different thing. But it's a completely different model. It's strict in some ways in Singapore, but it's good in others, I suppose. And you can have your military dictatorships, whatever. But the thing is always, if you get a lousy person, somebody who degenerates, who started off really good, but let's say absolute power got to him or her, or it. And, you know, how do you get rid of them? Well, gosh, it's human nature, William T. You just kill the guy, assassinate him, or you have a revolution, or you have a civil war. I'd rather not. Rather not. So this is where you get into these conundrums between like a Steven Pinker progressivism or, you know, these types of things and democracy and whatnot. But people seem sick of it because they have so much information. They seem to think that there are these new ideas out there that aren't really new. That's really cool. And they cling to these different influencers. If they care about this stuff, most people don't. You know, they're interested in motorcycle racing or something productive. But and then it becomes a thing, you know, it gets traction. So this is the Trump phenomenon. It's not going away at all. And the Republican ideologues are copying policies and saying this is where we're going to go. We're going to use this Trumpist energy to push all this through. And it's pretty much working for them. Of course, the classic neoliberal Democrats, the corporate Democrats, they're just giddy as hell that there's this, they can fight Russia finally. It's just a business model that always works for the elite. For some people, if you're a shareholder, bully for you. But it, like I thought from the very beginning, it's going to chew Ukraine to bits. You didn't watch Syria, huh? You didn't see the Russians in the US in Syria. You didn't notice that Aleppo thing. That kind of, you missed that one. Good Super Bowl that year. You missed Iraq, Afghanistan. Yeah. Well, everything's a conflict of interest in the States because everything's about money. I mean, purely. Now, I have friends, seriously, people I talked to on Skype, people I knew in real life, and who moved to Georgia. I have a friend who moved to Ukraine. I have a friend who moved to Russia. And they were mostly rightsy type people. And they just wanted, in their mind, they thought they would have a more Christian, new right kind of lifestyle. I didn't understand it, but I've lived in a lot of countries, so I can see that it might be attractive to try something new. And I wasn't as acquainted with their ideology as I am now, because I hadn't read many books on it. But now I've read about a dozen, so it's starting to make sense. I don't take them lightly, and I don't think they're stupid or idiots anymore. I have my knee-jerk reactions, my dick reactions, dickish reactions. But now I know where I am. Well, that was nice. That's really actually a much faster way